The Empire's warning. The stars shimmered like cold diamonds across the void when the message came. Every screen in the known galaxy flickered at once. On alien worlds, marketplaces froze. On starships, engines fell silent. The seal of the Galactic Empire appeared glowing in blood-red light. Then came the voice. It was not one voice but many, twisted together by machines so that every race could understand. It carried no warmth, no mercy, only command. "People of the galaxy," the voice declared. "Your age of chaos ends now. The Terran species has resisted the Empire long enough. Their fleet is small, their homeworld weak. They will kneel, or they will be destroyed. Any who stand with them will share their fate." Gasps spread from planet to planet. Some aliens shivered with fear. Others muttered relief that the Empire had finally decided to deal with the humans. But no one doubted the power behind the warning. The Empire had crushed thousands of systems. They had burned rebel fleets to ash. No army had ever stood against them and survived. The broadcast did not end quickly. Images followed. Fleets of warships stretching across the darkness. Weapons glowing like miniature suns. Worlds burning under orbital bombardment. Captured leaders dragged in chains before the Emperor's throne. It was a show of power, designed to break hope before a single shot was fired. On distant stations, alien traders whispered to one another, "The humans are finished. They were bold, but the Empire is eternal. Better to distance ourselves, or we will burn with them." But in the Terran High Command, the room was silent for another reason. Admirals and generals sat in shadow, their eyes reflecting the glow of the transmission. The threat was clear. The Empire would come for them soon. Entire galaxies were watching, waiting for humans to beg for mercy. Yet no one in the Terran Council begged. No one wept. Instead, they smiled. Admiral Reyes leaned back in his chair, the corner of his mouth turning upward. His voice was calm, almost amused. "They always do this," he said. "Show their claws before the fight." Across the table, General Okoye chuckled softly. "Lions roar loudest before they bleed." Younger officers shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, the Empire's fleet is massive. Their numbers dwarf ours. Shouldn't we?" Reyes cut him off with a look. "Numbers mean nothing if they don't know how to use them." The tension in the room changed. What the galaxy saw as madness, the humans carried as confidence. It wasn't arrogance. It was memory. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. Wars that spanned continents, disasters that shattered nations, enemies who believed they were unstoppable. And every time humanity had adapted, resisted, survived, the warning from the Empire was supposed to crush their spirit. Instead, it reminded them of who they were. Outside the council chamber, soldiers prepared their ships. Engineers moved with purpose, not fear. Pilots checked their flight suits with quiet determination. The humans did not whisper of doom. They told stories of Earth, of ancestors who fought with swords, rifles, and courage when the world was darker than the void. Above Earth, the Terran Fleet hung in orbit. Compared to the Empire, it was small, only a few hundred warships, many patched and battle-scarred. But each vessel was alive with energy, built not only with steel but with will. On their hulls were painted words in dozens of languages. Never, surrender, no retreat. Home is worth fighting for. The broadcast continued to echo across the galaxy. Worlds far away shook their heads at the humans' foolish defiance. Alien leaders whispered that siding with Terrans would be suicide. Merchants pulled their fleets from Terran space, hoping to avoid the coming firestorm. But in hidden places, not everyone agreed. Some alien soldiers who had fought beside humans before clenched their fists with pride. Some remembered Terran doctors who had saved their wounded, Terran engineers who had rebuilt their colonies, Terran farmers who had shared food with the hungry. To those few, the Empire's warning was not law, it was a test. Back in the council chamber, the broadcast finally ended. The red symbol of the Empire faded into black. Silence lingered. Then Admiral Reyes stood, his voice calm but steady, carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. "They think this message frightens us. They think their empire is eternal. But every empire falls, every tyrant breaks. General Okoye rose beside him. Her eyes were sharp, her smile sharper. And when they come for us, she said, the galaxy will see something it has never seen before. For a moment the chamber filled with quiet laughter. Not reckless, not desperate, simply human. The kind of laughter that comes from a people who have already accepted the worst and chosen to fight anyway. Far beyond the council walls, the stars burned bright. Somewhere in that endless void, the Empire's fleets were already moving. Soon the battles would begin. Soon the galaxy would see if the Terran's strange smile was madness or prophecy. And in the heart of it all, Earth waited. The Terran smile, the galaxy could not understand it. Across 1,000 star systems, species who had never agreed on anything before found themselves united in confusion. Why did the humans smile? On the holoscreens replaying the Empire's broadcast, analysts pointed to the same moment again and again. When the Terran Council did not break, when they did not bow, when they smiled as if the Empire's threat was a joke. Commentators called it madness. Scholars called it arrogance. But ordinary people, watching from dusty outposts and crowded spaceports, felt something else. It looked like defiance. It looked like fire. In the Terran High Command, the mood was nothing like the rest of the galaxy expected. Officers moved with sharp precision. Pilots laughed with one another in the hangars. Engineers worked with music echoing through the bays. It wasn't carelessness. It was preparation, built on a strange calm that outsiders mistook for insanity. Admiral Reyes stood at the viewport of the orbital command station. Beyond him stretched the Terran Fleet, lines of cruisers, destroyers, carriers, each one a shadow against the glowing curve of Earth. They were small compared to the Empire's monstrous armadas, but every ship was alive with restless energy. Crews trained day and night, testing systems, drilling for battles they knew were coming. General Okoye joined him at the glass. Her voice was low, almost amused. They expect fear, but all they see is this. She pointed toward a squadron of pilots laughing loudly as they boarded their fighters. They will never understand it. Reyes smiled faintly. They don't have to. They only need to feel it when the battle begins. Down below in the city lights of Earth, civilians carried on their lives with the same strange mixture of calm and steel. Children still played in the streets. Farmers still tended fields. Factories worked without pause, building weapons, armor, ships, but the people themselves showed no signs of despair. Humanity had lived under storms, under war, under famine. They had always carried scars, and yet they always found reason to laugh, even in the darkest times. The Empire thought it had shown them fear, but fear was not new to humans. On a distant mining colony, alien workers sat huddled around a projector, replaying the human council's reaction. One whispered, "Why? Do they smile when death is near?" Another older alien answered quietly, "Because they've seen death before, and they know how to return it." The mystery spread like wildfire. Messages from alien sympathizers poured secretly into Terran space. Some asked for shelter, some offered intelligence. Others simply confessed admiration. "Your people frighten me. And yet, I wish I had your courage." But the Empire was not idle. Its fleets gathered in dark sectors, assembling like storm clouds on the horizon. Spy reports flowed into Terran command, describing thousands of warships forming up, engines burning, weapons charged. By sheer numbers, the Terrans could not hope to match them. Still, the humans smiled. In a quiet chamber beneath Earth's surface, a team of scientists gathered around a holographic display. Equations scrolled across the light, diagrams of strange technology drawn in glowing lines. Their leader, Dr. Helena Varga, tapped the table. "They don't know," she said softly. "They have no idea what we've built." Her colleagues nodded. Years of secret work had gone into the project. Hidden research, hidden materials, hidden testing. While the Empire believed the Terrans were weak, they had been building something the galaxy had never seen. Above, on the decks of Terran ships, soldiers prepared for war. Some wrote letters to families. Others sat quietly polishing their rifles, whispering old Earth songs. Each one knew the odds. Each one had heard the same stories. The Empire's fleets, their endless weapons, their cruelty. But none of it erased the fire in their eyes. One soldier, a young pilot named Carter, leaned back in his cockpit as the launch countdown ticked away. His squadron leader glanced at him and frowned. "Why are you grinning, rookie? You think this is a game?" Carter shrugged. "If we're going to die, sir, might as well die smiling. Makes it harder for them to forget us." The squadron leader laughed despite himself. "You Terrans are insane." "Maybe," Carter replied. "But it works." Far across the galaxy in the Empire's grand halls, the Emperor himself watched the same footage. The human smiles unsettled him in a way no weapon ever had. He slammed a clawed hand against his throne. "Mockery," he hissed. "They mock us with their weakness, break them, burn their world until no one remembers their name." The order was given. The fleets prepared to move. The first clash was only days away. Back on Earth, the humans gathered. Leaders, soldiers, civilians alike. They knew the storm was coming. They knew the galaxy expected them to fall. And yet the smiles remained. Not careless, not cruel, simply human. Because they knew something. The galaxy did not. When humans smile at the impossible, it means the fight has already begun. And this time, the galaxy was watching. The first clash. The black of space was never silent. Not when fleets moved. Even without sound, the void seemed to pulse with energy, as if it sensed the coming storm. The Empire's armada appeared first. Thousands of ships slid out of warp, blotting out the stars like a wall of steel. Their hulls burned with red light, their engines glowing like molten suns. Each vessel was massive, bristling with weapons. From a distance, they looked less like ships and more like a fleet of floating fortresses. On border worlds, alien civilians tuned their projectors and watched, with dread. "It's over," some whispered. "No one can fight this." The news feeds repeated the same phrase. "The first Terran defense will fall within an hour." But then, the Terran Fleet appeared. Only a few hundred ships dropped out of warp, forming a scattered line in the darkness. Compared to the Empire's armada, they looked small, fragile, like knives facing a mountain. But their formation was strange, loose, flexible, not the rigid squares of the Empire. On the flagship TSS Resolute, Admiral Reyes stood before his officers. The Empire's ships stretched across the screen, filling it with menace. A young officer whispered, "They outnumber us 20 to 1. Reyes smiled. "Good. Then we won't miss them." The order was given. Terran ships moved, engines burning blue, scattering into dozens of directions at once. To the Empire, it looked like panic, like retreat. Their commanders laughed. "Already breaking. Crush them." The first volley came. The Empire fired with terrifying power. Plasma beams, missile storms, energy cannons that lit up the void. Dozens of Terran ships vanished in flames. The galaxy watching gasped. "The humans are finished," voices said. "This is the end." But then something strange happened. As the smoke cleared, the Terran ships regrouped. They weren't broken, they were weaving. Small cruisers darted between capital ships like fish between sharks, striking with precise bursts, vanishing before the enemy could target them. Destroyers laid traps, scattering mines that detonated in blinding bursts, tearing holes in the Empire's tight formations, and then came the carriers. From their bays launched hundreds of fighters, small and agile, diving straight into the storm. Alien spectators blinked in disbelief. Fighters against dreadnoughts? Suicide. But the Terran pilots did not falter. They flew with insane daring, skimming hulls, weaving through turrets, striking at weak points no one else would dare approach. One fighter squadron broke through an Empire cruiser's defenses. Pilot Carter, his grin unchanged even in the face of death, whispered over comms, "Time to show them what a smile means." He fired, his missiles slamming into the reactor vents. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, the shockwave scattering nearby ships. The galaxy fell silent. For the first time, an Empire warship had been destroyed. By humans. In the Emperor's throne chamber, silence turned to fury. The Emperor's claws dug into the armrest of his throne. "Impossible," he hissed. "They are gnats. Gnats do, not kill lions." But gnat after gnat struck. Terran ships danced through the chaos, small enough to slip past heavy fire, clever enough to strike where shields were weakest. Their weapons were not the strongest, but their precision was unmatched. Every shot counted. Every strike was chosen. Admiral Reyes's voice echoed across the fleet. "They think war is about numbers. They think victory is about fear. But war is about thinking faster, about never breaking." On alien worlds, beings who had already accepted Terran defeat now leaned closer to their screens. "They fight differently," someone whispered. "They fight like they enjoy it." But the Empire was not finished. As the first battle dragged on, they unleashed their true monsters, colossal siege ships, each the size of a small moon, armed with planet-killer cannons. Their arrival darkened the void even further. The galaxy trembled. The Terran fleet seemed like ants before giants. General Okoye's voice cut through the comms, calm, steady, smiling. "Then let's show them what ants can do." The Terrans shifted again, their fleet splitting into dozens of moving groups. Fighters swarmed the siege ships like hornets, distracting their turrets. Cruisers darted in and out, cutting engines at the last second to slingshot past enemy fire. Carriers launched wave after wave, the pilots fighting with reckless courage. In one desperate maneuver, Carter's squadron flew directly into the barrel of a siege cannon seconds before it fired. "If we die," Carter whispered, "we'll die inside their memory forever." His team unleashed everything. Torpedoes, mines, railgun bursts. The cannon shattered, detonating in a chain of explosions that ripped through the siege ship's spine. The galaxy screamed in disbelief. A moon-sized ship destroyed by human fighters. The impossible had just become real. On the Resolute, Reyes turned to his officers. "They wanted us afraid. They wanted us silent. Instead, they'll remember our smile." The first clash was not a victory, not fully. The Terrans lost many ships. Thousands of soldiers never returned. But when the smoke cleared, the impossible truth stood clear across every broadcast. The humans had survived the Empire's first strike. And more than that, they had struck back. The galaxy stared at their screens, stunned. Some whispered hope. Some whispered fear, but all whispered the same words. The Terrans smiled, and the Empire bled. The hidden ace. The battlefield still burned. Wreckage drifted in the void, glowing with dying flames. Terran ships, battered and scarred, pulled back to regroup. Across the galaxy, countless screens replayed the impossible moment, the destruction of an Empire siege ship by human fighters. But the victory came at a cost. Dozens of Terran vessels were gone, thousands of lives lost. And yet the Empire's armada remained vast, stretching across the stars like a steel ocean. Their commanders did not mourn the loss of a single ship. To them, it was a scratch. Nothing more. On the flagship Resolute, Admiral Reyes studied the holomap. Red dots filled the space, an endless wall of enemies pressing closer. Blue dots, the Terran fleet, looked fragile, scattered, fading. Even his youngest officers could see the truth. The numbers would crush them. One whispered, "Sir, we can't win this. Not like this." Reyes smiled faintly. "Not like this, no. But battles aren't only about ships. Sometimes they're about surprises." General Okoye stepped forward. Her eyes locked with Reyes. "Is it time?" Reyes gave a single nod. "It's time." Far beneath the surface of the moon, in a hidden facility carved deep into ancient rock, engines roared to life. Massive doors opened, sliding apart with a thunderous echo. For centuries, humanity had hidden its greatest work, pretending weakness, pretending smallness. But the Empire's challenge had forced their hand. From the shadows it emerged, a ship unlike any other. Sleek, black as midnight, vast as a city, its surface alive with strange, shifting light. It was not merely built, it was engineered from secrets the galaxy had never seen. Its name was etched into its hull, TSS Aegis. The Aegis was not just a warship, it was humanity's answer to extinction. Back on the battlefield, the Empire's fleets pressed forward, cannons glowing with destructive fire. Their commanders laughed, voices dripping with arrogance. Crush them. Leave nothing. Then space itself trembled. A distortion rippled across the void, a shimmer like bending glass. Sensors screamed warnings. Alien spectators leaned closer, to their screens, confused. And then, it appeared. The Aegis. It dropped into the battle with silent majesty, dwarfing every Terran vessel. Its black hull reflected no light, as if it drank the stars themselves. Along its surface, glowing lines pulsed like veins of fire. Weapons no one had ever catalogued burned quietly, waiting. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's fleets hesitated. "What is that?" one commander demanded. "A new battleship?" "No, it's something else." On alien worlds, crowds erupted into gasps. The Terrans had this hidden all along. The Aegis spoke, its voice cold and human, echoing across comms. "Empire fleet, you wanted war, here is your answer." The Empire fired first. Dozens of dreadnoughts unleashed their cannons, beams of pure energy ripping across the void. The Aegis did not dodge. Its hull shimmered, absorbing the blasts like rain against stone. When the fire cleared, the ship remained, untouched. Then, the Aegis answered. From its core erupted a single beam, silent and focused, slicing across the darkness. It passed through 3 Empire warships in a single strike, cutting them apart as if they were paper. The galaxy roared in disbelief. Terran ships rallied around their hidden ace. Their battered lines found new strength, pilots shouting in joy. "The Aegis is here, we are not alone." Inside the Empire's command vessel, silence turned to fear. One admiral's voice shook. This cannot be. They were primitives. They had nothing. But humanity had always built in secret. While the galaxy dismissed them, mocked them, ignored them, they had been working. The Aegis was proof. On the Resolute, Admiral Reyes watched as the Aegis tore through enemy lines. The smile wasn't arrogance, he whispered. It was a promise. General Okoye nodded. And now the promise is kept. Still, the Empire fought back. Their fleet surged, desperate to overwhelm the Terrans before the Aegis could shift the balance fully. The void turned into a storm of fire. Terran pilots fought with reckless courage, their ships darting through impossible maneuvers. The Aegis unleashed strike after strike, carving holes through the enemy's wall. But the Empire was endless. For every ship destroyed, 3 more pressed forward. The battle grew darker, bloodier. Alien spectators watching across the galaxy whispered in awe and fear. The Terrans had a hidden weapon. They prepared all along. What else are they hiding? And, still through the chaos, through the storm, the Terrans smiled. The Emperor himself stood before his throne, claws trembling with rage. He had seen rebellions, uprisings, resistance, but never this. Never a species so small, so fragile, and yet so unbroken. His voice thundered through the hall. "Destroy that ship, I don't care how. Bring me the human's smile." And break it. But far away in the cold of space, the Aegis glided forward, silent and implacable. The hidden ace had been revealed. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The smile explained. The battlefield was chaos. Broken ships drifted like corpses in the dark. Explosions lit the void in blinding flashes, each one a reminder of the thousands dying with every passing moment. The Empire's fleet still pressed forward, endless as a tide, but at the center of the storm stood the Terrans, small, scarred, and smiling. The Aegis carved through enemy lines with a grace that defied belief. Its black hull shimmered with unbroken strength, its weapons tearing holes through ships 10 times its size. Every time it fired, another segment of the Empire's fleet collapsed. On the Resolute, Admiral Reyes watched the screens with calm intensity. "They thought numbers would win," he said softly. "But numbers mean nothing without spirit." General Okoye's voice carried through the comms, reaching every Terran ship. "Listen well. This is not only our fight. The galaxy is watching. Every strike, every sacrifice, every smile, they will remember. Hold the line, show them what it means to be human." Her words spread like fire. Pilots shouted in defiance as they dove into impossible battles. Soldiers tightened their grips, pushing their ships beyond safe limits. Engineers rerouted power from failing systems, refusing to surrender even as sparks flew across their consoles. The Empire unleashed everything. Siege cannons fired beams large enough to split moons. Dreadnoughts hurled wave after wave of firepower. To the galaxy, it looked like the Terrans should break. But they didn't. One by one, Terran ships made impossible stands. A lone destroyer rammed into an enemy cruiser, tearing it apart in a blaze of light. A squadron of fighters flew directly into the jaws of a dreadnought, releasing torpedoes at the last second before vanishing in flame. Each sacrifice bought the fleet precious seconds. Each second pushed the battle further away from defeat, and, through it all, the Terrans smiled. In the throne hall of the Empire, the Emperor's fury boiled into fear. His claws dug deep into the metal of his throne. Why do they not break? Why do they smile when they should weep? His commanders had no answer. For the first time in centuries, the Emperor saw not obedience in his fleets, but hesitation. Fear, because when an enemy smiles in the face of death, it means something worse than defiance. It means inevitability. Then came the turning point. The Aegis activated its final weapon. From its core pulsed waves of energy, not designed to destroy, but to reveal. Across the battlefield, Empire shields flickered, their frequencies exposed. For the first time, Terran weapons struck without resistance. Entire wings of enemy ships fell within seconds, fire blooming like stars across the void. The galaxy watching gasped. "They didn't just build a ship," one alien whispered. "They built hope." The Empire faltered, commanders screamed orders, but panic spread through their ranks. Ships broke formation, fleeing into the void. The unstoppable wall of steel was crumbling. Admiral Reyes gave the final order. "Advance. No retreat. Show them why we smiled." The Terran fleet surged forward, every vessel striking with precision. Fighters tore through weakened hulls. Cruisers pounded crippled ships. The Aegis led the charge, its black silhouette cutting through the storm like a blade through shadow. When the last of the Empire's frontline ships broke and fled, silence fell across the void. Wreckage floated in endless fields. The Terrans had lost much, half their fleet gone, countless lives given. But they still stood, and more importantly, they had won. In the aftermath, across alien worlds, beings who once doubted humanity now whispered a different word: respect. Some called it awe, others called it fear, but none could deny the truth. The Terrans had faced the greatest power in the galaxy. They had smiled, and the Empire bled. On the bridge of the Resolute, the surviving officers gathered. Faces tired, uniforms scorched, eyes filled with both grief and pride. One young officer finally asked the question everyone had wondered. "Admiral, why did we smile? From the beginning? When the whole galaxy thought we were doomed?" Reyes looked out into the stars, his voice steady. "Because fear changes nothing. Because despair gives the enemy victory before the battle even begins. We smiled because we have survived worse than the Empire could ever imagine. We smiled because, even if we fell, the galaxy would know we never bowed. And we smiled because deep down we knew we would win." Silence followed. Then slowly the officers smiled too. In distant corners of the galaxy, oppressed worlds stirred. Rebellions whispered, chains rattled, because they had seen it now. With their own eyes, the human smile was not arrogance, it was a weapon, and the galaxy would never forget it.